My guest at this time can be seen every Wednesday night as part of AEW Dynamite on TNT. He is also the subject of the documentary The Wrestler, a QT Marshall story. It is QT Marshall. QT, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today.
You're welcome, Nick. I appreciate you having me on.
No problem. I actually got to interview the director of the documentary, Frank Zarillo, here a couple weeks ago, so I have some context, and we're going to pair these two interviews together here on
Okay, well, hopefully they match up.
Yeah, I think they will. I think there'll be a lot of common conversations in there. Well, first of all, I want to start off by saying, QT, of all the documentaries I've seen about pro wrestling, this really is one of my favorite documentaries. And it may just because we're like the same age, I'm not really sure. But you were very open in this documentary. You told a really raw story. First of all, how did you and Frank meet up and come to the decision to show your story the way you did in this documentary?
Frank's brother is a mutual friend of mine through one of my friends, and we hung out. His brother used to make like costumes and stuff in Orlando. Okay. So like for Halloween, and they were all into entertainment and stuff. And he said, "Hey, my brother is looking to get into wrestling and possibly like document it." And he came to the Monster Factory where I was working, like the indies up there.
Yeah.
And he watched one match that I had with Damian Priest from NXT. And he's like, "I don't want to do this. I'd rather just follow your story." I said, "Okay, yeah, whatever, man." Like, I'm very, I have the ability to self-assess. So I didn't really see myself as a big deal. I was like, "Yeah, you can follow me, whatever. Do your thing, dude,"
Sure.
And he created magic. So.
Well, were there any hesitations for you about making the documentary? I mean, again, I say you were really raw. I mean, we see you driving the truck. We see you around the dinner table with your mom. Was there anything that you were hesitant to put out there for people to see about what you were going through?
Not really, because the one thing that he said, and I think he was 24 at the time, just be natural. And I have nothing to hide. I know my rap sheet's clean, and I want people to understand, like, this isn't the easiest industry to get into. And, I think that we covered that really well.
You guys really did. And some of the most touching stuff for me was when you were talking about your day gig, right? Driving the truck, Talk to people out there that haven't seen this documentary a little bit about, what it was like for you at that time. Well, you kind of had a run in Ring of Honor, didn't work out. You didn't know what the next steps were. And you were settling into life as just like a normal adult,
Yeah, it was, I was put in a great scenario with my stepfather, and basically to just take over his whole entire business. He sold tools, and he had 3 franchises, and I was kind of helping him out and running the business, and I'm really good at sales, which is kind of what we do in wrestling as well. Sure. So I'm very personable, so I did really well. I just didn't know anything about tools, and I didn't like the job. And I just remember waking up every day and realizing, like, okay, this can't be my life. This is not what I'm here for. I don't know what I'm here for. I know what I'm really good at. I also am not really scared of much because I am personable. And I do think that there is ways for me to always survive, but I don't ever want to just coast through life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you were doing that by day, but you were still in the business, right? Like you said, you were working with the Monster Factory there. A lot of stuff in the documentary also takes place in that space. If we can go back here a little bit, you mind talking to me a little bit about your relationship with Danny Cage and what it was like for you to be a coach at the Monster Factory?
Yeah, so Danny Cage and I, when I first started in 2004, he was just retiring from wrestling. He had like a very serious back injury. And so long story short, when I moved back to New Jersey after I signed with Ring of Honor, I was just looking to, stay in shape. And also I wanted to help him out because he had just took over the Monster Factory. So I would always tell Kevin Kelly, make sure you talk about me being from the Monster Factory, just trying to help out his business. And, once I realized that I wasn't going to be active in the ring full time anymore, I just said, hey, do you mind if I come by and help out a little bit? And then he was like, hey, you want to coach? So kind of just one thing led to another, and I enjoy teaching. So that's a real fun part of the business as well.
Yeah, and you were coaching, stars of the future there, right? I mean, there's some names. I mean, it's not like you just brought some guys in, took their money, and it's like, who'd he coach? I mean, there's some names we'll get to here in just a second. But for you were in this really interesting situation here. Gerald Briscoe comes in. He's hosting this camp, and you're trying to get seen while also wrestling people you were coaching who are also trying to be seen. What's that dynamic like for you when you get into a space like that?
So the weirdest part is in the documentary, Gerald comes to the facility, which he did every year. I had already been offered a tryout like week. But Gerald was coming as well. So Danny said to me, "Hey, you should still come, just so you could, it can't ever hurt to have another person throw your name in the hat."
Sure.
Which in hindsight, it did hurt because he was the one that put my name in again, and they kind of only chose like one or two people out of the 4 or 5 that he put in.
Oh,
And so that's part of the stuff that we don't really get into. Just, hey, they took the tryout away and stuff like that. Not to ruin the film for anybody. But so I went there, and that's why if you watch the film, I'm wearing like the lime green shirt as opposed to the dark green shirt, because the lime green shirt is a coaching shirt. And my goal was always just to wrestle for a little while, but then be a coach and, be the corporate guy, because that's where, the sustainable living is for a long period of time. It's not just a, hey, flash in the pan, get your deal, they work you out and then you're done. You know what I mean? So that was always my goal. So Danny's idea was, hey, you should come by that day. And it just worked for the story, and believe it or not, the one guy, Nick, Camarado, he just got released from NXT, but he was the one that actually went to the tryout from that camp.
Wow. So wait, so you already had the tryout booked, and you were like, you know what, I'll do another one anyway. It'll be good for the movie. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, yeah. I had already gotten the tryout 2 months before that from William Regal at a SmackDown. And then Danny told me that, and I said, yeah, I'll come down, whatever. It can't hurt. And Frank said, oh, this is great because, you're going to talk to Gerald, and we'll show all this stuff, and then the movie will end with you taking off on the airplane. I said, oh, great. Yeah, whatever. And then like a month later, they called me and said that, Danny called me and said, hey, can you come by the school? We can go over this. And I got there, and then we filmed that scene, and it was just like, how did this all happen? Like, why did I even show up?
Wow.
So, yeah, we don't get into that part too much, but it's all the same. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Why does the director of the documentary want to take heat for pressuring you?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. We just try to, honestly, at the end of the day, no matter what the reasons were that they decided not to bring me in for a tryout, they're probably on me. Right. And that's kind of like what I told Frank. And when he put the movie together, I told him, I said, don't worry. Like, it's on me. If it was something, no one could put my name in, and if I was ready, if I was the one that they wanted, they were going to take me no matter what. You know what I mean? So we don't put any heat on anyone else. We kind of leave it on me, and because at the end of the day, it's all about you, right? Like, if you're the one that's trying to pursue your dream, you should do everything in your power to do it, and which kind of led me to where I'm at right now.
Wow. So is that, and not to spoil the whole movie or anything, but there's like one scene where we don't have access to you. It's you and Danny in his office where he
yeah, that's him explaining to me that, Gerald had called, and basically that they were only going to bring one of the guys down from the 4 or 5 that he put in there, and that my name didn't make the cut. And, what wasn't shown is there's follow-up emails that, of course, because I'm not going to take no for an answer. This is my dream. So,
yeah.
I've emailed William Regal. We spoke about it, and it just had to do with, my age, living in New Jersey. Like, they didn't bring me in when I was living in Florida. They'd love to use me as an extra all the time because I'm really good at enhancing their talent, but this, that, and the other. So, it is what it is. It worked out for the best.
It's wild how it did, right? Because, like, you didn't wind up in WWE, but obviously this other story gets told in the documentary, and now you're with AEW. Before we get to that, to kind of finish up talking about the Monster Factory a little bit, there's obviously one big student you had that's making waves right now, and that's Matt Riddle. What was it like? I would think you get this like raw piece of potential. What was it like to help him kind of form that and become the wrestler that he is now?
He was a prodigy, right? Because he was a giant fan of pro wrestling. Yeah. So that helps. He just and he wasn't really getting smashed in the face like he was in UFC. So he was really easy to coach. He was a little knuckleheadish, with some of the stuff that he did back then, but he's a good kid. And I remember meeting him at a Ring of Honor camp and kind of pulling him aside because Danny had given me the heads up that he came by the Monster Factory first. I said, hey, if you really want to learn, come to the Monster Factory. We'll teach you the right way. And then you find your own spin. And, he ended up started working with Evolve. But 2015. I think he was about 4 months into training, and I had like an 18-minute match with him on the fly. He
Okay.
didn't call anything, and he was a natural. So he
Wow.
was going to make it no matter what. It was just a matter of him finding the right connection and all that other stuff. So
Are you surprised? I mean, because I've always, I've heard that, Matt is a very hard-headed personality, right? He definitely knows what he wants. Are you surprised to see him in the position he's at now? I mean, like, he's obviously somebody who's going to be a big name here in years to come.
no, because at the end of the day, I think it goes back to he's very confident and he's not scared of anything. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing to have in your back pocket, to know that your skill set is, whether it's fighting, wrestling, just being personable, whatever it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to just be a yes man. And unfortunately, like, if you're a yes man all the time, it's great, but then you're not happy and it'll end up coming out in the end, and you can't have that happen, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I don't want to give the whole, barn away here with this, but the documentary leads to you making the call to go to Georgia, open your own wrestling school. You part ways with Monster Factory. I never really got to see what that handoff looked like. How did Danny and Monster Factory take to you telling them that you were going to go off and do your own thing elsewhere?
So, yeah, I was actually going to open up a Monster Factory in Georgia, and that was kind of what we discussed. But then there's legalities. There's, hey, using people's names and LLCs and all this stuff. And I say, hey, I'll be honest with you, it's not worth it to me to do that. And also, like, he built a brand, and I didn't want to be responsible for messing up his brand, because we have very different philosophies on styles of training, right? So, and as a coach for him, I would follow his philosophies, but in my own facility, I'm going to do what I want to do. Plus, I didn't want to have a boss. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
So I moved down here, and I have family down here. So we packed up, moved down, and we opened up the facility, and it's great. It kind of which led me to meeting Cody and Brandy, because I was doing some backstage stuff with Ring of Honor still, almost like interning.
Okay.
So I could learn the backside of everything.
All right.
Which we can't cover because in the documentary, because it was already done. But long story short, I met Cody and Brandy. Brandy needed a place to train. Cody saw the documentary. He saw my passion for pro wrestling, offered me an opportunity, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. Well, that's a 10,000-foot view of how all that happened and came together. I will ask, though, just to kind of touch on, you mentioned you and Danny have differences in philosophies of training.
Sure.
Talk to me a little about what works for you as a trainer. What are the things that you do differently that you think are effective?
Well, our similarities is we're both very honest. So that's great. And I feel like you have to be honest with the people that are paying you. But at the same time, I also am not a babysitter, right? So I don't force people to come to training. Like, if you don't want to come to training, it's on you. And take it from me, the guy that didn't want to put all the work in. I probably did about 90% to get to where I was at, but I also relied a lot on just natural talent and which went a long way for me, but it only gets you so far, right? So I'm very honest with the guys, and I make them decide, hey, if you want to put the work in. So when they come for they come and they ask me, hey, can I get an opportunity here? Can you put in a word for me here? Or whatever it is, whether it's an indie show, whether it's an AEW thing or wherever, I just ask them, like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Because if they know when they're asking me, as soon as I flip the question back on them, they know whether they've done everything they need to do to deserve that opportunity, right? Because it took me 16 years of hard work and, a lot of training. And I spent over probably $15,000 on wrestling training, over seminars and tryouts and this, that, and the other.
Man.
And I just, I don't want to give these guys just a free pass, right, to the next level, because it's going to look bad on me. And it's hard enough that, I got to hold on to my reputation on my own. I don't want anyone else ruining it for me. You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and you say the school now and how you met Cody and everything. I know Ray Lloyd, a.k.a. Glacier, is in the mix here.
Sure.
Were you working with Ray before you met Cody, or did Ray – because I know Cody and Ray are very close as well.
Yeah, so no, I met Ray a long time ago in Orlando when I was living down there. And I did a couple local shows for him, and he was very impressed with just at 24 wearing a suit to the show and just dressing for the part, right? So, and being very mature and stuff like that. So when WrestleMania weekend in Orlando, I saw him and we started chatting, and he's like, "Oh, you live in Atlanta? I have a house in Atlanta, this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
if you ever want help with your school, like I got this guy, he trains football players and he's got this amazing facility. He'll probably let you just put a ring in there and
Cool.
sure, man. Yeah, you can help me. And I said, well, why don't we just go in together on this school and we'll use your name and, and I'll, you could get like some on the back end and, show up when you can because he was doing some stuff that he had to take care of.
Yeah.
And so he introduced me to Chip Smith. And so our facility is a 40,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility. And now we have 4 rings. It's just, and what was good is when Brandy was looking for training, it helped, right? Because she walks in and it's not just a wrestling ring in a warehouse,
Right. Well, and having Ray there, I would imagine also, like, again, like I know Cody and Ray are like close, I think. And so I'm sure that helped as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. Like, Ray I am to Cody what like Ray kind of was to Dusty, you know what I mean? So, because Ray used to help Dusty out at his school. So it's kind of like, and now Cody and I are kind of, we're kind of like helping out at the school together, when Brandy's there and stuff. So it's surreal how all this stuff comes full circle.
Dude, that's so cool. Yeah, I interviewed Ray, I don't know how long, maybe been a year ago at this point, but we talked all about this, man. Like, that's why I'm fascinated by the dynamic here. And on top of that, now, is the school, so is it full on the Nightmare Factory? Like, is it you, Cody, Ray?
We're in the transitioning phase.
Okay. And is this going to become like what AEW would imagine their performance center to be? I'm really interested in that aspect.
I don't think it's something that we're going to go there because I also don't want to pigeonhole like all of the athletes. Like, hey, you can only work at one place. You know what I mean? It kind of, it cuts out half of the dream, right? Like, so we'll see. I mean, I'm down for anything. I mean, we're just right now we're just training as many people as we can.
Yeah.
And a couple of our athletes have been picked up by AEW. Alan Angels was just picked up, and Lee Johnson and Preston Vance and Anna Jay. So it's luckily the good part about all the stuff that's been going on in the culture, in the world right now is that it's been getting a lot of locals opportunities. Sure. And the ones that I present are always going to be the ones that are checking all the boxes. Like I said, the ones that come up to me and ask, and I say, hey, have you done what you've been, asked to do? And Alan and Preston and, Anna Jay and Lee, they're examples of those. So,
man, now you are Gerald Briscoe. Is that with you?
Right. No, I know. Oh man. I know that's the thing too, is like, I got 60 students and they all want jobs. And I'm like, guys, this isn't how this works. Like don't get spoiled,
It's like I grew up with Joe Briscoe was like in the hardcore division. It was like a joke. Watching him in that documentary where he's just like full on like man aggressive like on you. I've never seen him like that. It totally caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Well, here you are getting your second chance now in AEW, QT, and that's the thing is this doc ends on this kind of like note of what's next. Like we don't get to see this chapter for you in the film. For you, what is it like getting a second chance knowing where you were just a couple years ago when this documentary ended?
It's pretty surreal. It's but it also, I hope, shows everybody that like it's never over, right? Like it's never over. As long as you as Cody would say, like go all in, right? And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
And I remember like, okay, if I go all in on this, if nothing else, I'll run a successful facility and I'll do okay. And I was more than okay with that. I mean, I don't want to go back to that, but you know what I mean? Like now I'm getting to live out my dream. And like you said, also help other people live out their dreams. Yeah. So it's one of the best feelings ever.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're paired up with Dustin Rhodes, who just announced a couple days ago. It sounds like he's going to open his own school.
Sure.
You guys.
Sure. Yeah, he's asking me a lot of questions about the ins and outs and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, hey, you have a passion for teaching. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Literally, that's all you need. All the bells and whistles are great, but there's a lot of people that have bells and whistles and they don't have the passion to teach, and their schools don't succeed.
Yeah. And what's it like for you getting to, not only just befriend and like share space, but also get to perform with Dustin Rhodes? I mean, that's a pretty, marquee, high profile thing you're getting to do right now.
So every time there's a graphic up there or an episode of Dynamite or Dark or anything that I get flooded with messages from my friends who we all grew up watching wrestling together.
Yeah.
So teaming with Dustin Rhodes, being on TNT, doing the diamond cutter that has been bestowed from Diamond Dallas Page.
I was going to bring up, man. Dude, that's awesome.
Absurd. It really is absurd. And, like I said, we make it a storyline. just to get it public. But that was a true, genuine conversation between Dallas and I. And I've done a lot of stuff behind the scenes to help out Dallas, who's also helped us out. And it's a give and take.
Right.
And, and I said, are you sure? Like, you really want me to? And he said, I think that you would do it justice. There's a lot of behind the scenes, verbiage that we used about talking about it and stuff. And I just said, man, yeah, if you would it's an honor, And I said, but I'd love to make it part of something entertaining as well. Because of course the Sappy story is really good as well. But for the fans, we kind of want them to have a little fun with it as well, And that's why we filmed those videos.
Dude, that's awesome, man. And that brings us to now, man. The latest thing that you're doing on TV that everybody's asking and talking about is you and the bunny, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
What's the deal with you and the bunny? How did this come together? What is her role with you right now?
I came out to wrestle, and I was looking for my apple. I couldn't find it, and then in the middle of the match, I look up, and there she is eating it, and nothing, that was her way of, I guess, saying that she liked me. So she's been really cool. Dustin and Brandy don't like her, but they have history. So we're just trying to be one big happy family, and we're winning, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's about, wins and losses in AEW. So we'll see where it goes. I've been more successful since she's been around.
Okay.
So it's fun. It's fun. People are into it. They're into the character stuff, and that's what pro wrestling is. So as long as they like it, and that's something that I think deep down I needed from a performer, as a performer, is to show people that because fundamentally, yes, I'm very good at being, a fundamental wrestler, right? I coach it. I should be good at it. The one thing about pro wrestling I'm not a big fan of is that people judge how we work physically. Okay. You shouldn't have to worry about that, right? I shouldn't have to worry about the way you interview, the dynamic, the fundamentals of you interviewing somebody.
Sure.
If that makes sense, right? You're an interviewer. That's your job. You should be good at that, if that makes sense.
I would hope so. It sounds like you enjoyed this interview. That's good.
Yeah. Yes, of course. And that's the thing is so I always say, how can I connect with an audience though? And for me, it's just being myself. And this is something that I feel is really going to get people to understand. And whether they think, oh man, this guy's a goof or whatever, hey, as long as you're entertained, that's really all I care about, and all I ask everybody is, because there's been it's a love and hate type of response that we're getting. And especially with the other show and how they kind of do their stuff. And they try to insult the fans' intelligence and stuff like that. And
yeah,
we're not going to do that. We're just trying to put out a quality product and keep it entertaining and keep it fun more than anything. And so all I ask is follow the story, enjoy it. Every story will end, and there will be a good or a bad ending, and it'll be fun,
That is the nature of stories. There's
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, QT, thank you very much for taking the time, man. Again, I thought the documentary was really good. If everybody out there like Beyond the Mat or Dark Side, the Dark Side of the Ring stuff.
Sure.
This is very good. So
real quick, I just want to for Frank, because like I said, I think I showed Cody this. We premiered this film, and Cody and Brandy showed up for the premiere and in Atlanta, and it kind of showed Cody my passion for this, which led me to more opportunities, which leads me to today. So for Frank, I do want to let everybody know that it is available on Amazon Prime. It's also available on Best Buy, and it won the San Diego Comic-Con in 2017. It's just a great story about somebody. It's not a wrestling story. It's about somebody that's trying to fulfill their dreams. And I think that's why it connects with everybody. He did a really great job of telling my story. And like I said, I hope what he did for me, I'm able to do for him, because he's a young upcoming director, and he's a good guy all around. So